How you doing? It's the Butcher here, and today I am making a video reviewing the stones, both the governing stones and the tuning stones that are going to be available for our Seneschal companion for Season 3, and going over them, my thoughts, what I see being the best ones, which ones I see being used in tandem, and all of that good stuff. So I have both the blog posts and then Rob2628, who I'm sure many of you know, but if you don't, I will have his channel and the video where he discusses this, and he has this spreadsheet linked in the description as well, because he made a great spreadsheet and actually screenshotted the stones, or I keep wanting to call them runes, but I guess they're technically stones, that were displayed in the latest video from the developers. So let's go through this. Let's use Rob's spreadsheet first, because it's just better. It kind of lays everything out. So the governing stones, again, how this works is we get 2 governing stones, which are actually like the active abilities, and then for each of those stones we get to add 3 tuning stones, which are essentially like supporting abilities to that main governing stone ability. If you played Path of Exile, it's kind of a ripoff of how their system works, where you have your regular skills and you have your support skills that support that basically one of your skills you're using. So let's say you're using Twisting Blades, you would have things that make it attack faster or have a wider area of effect or things like that. So if you've ever played that game, very, very similar. So to go through it here, so we'll start with the governing stones and we'll move on to the tuning stones and how these kind of work in tandem. So the first one we have is Bushwhack. This is just basically damaging enemies, if I remember correctly. Go over here. Yeah, so ambushes them, so I'm guessing like kind of pops up behind them. We don't know exactly how a lot of this stuff works. So some of these I think are going to be good early games, specifically things like Bushwhack and some of these things that do like physical damage. Because you can't really scale that a lot of times, most likely. You won't be able to scale it. Maybe you will in some way. I know they did say these will scale with your character, so what we see here that's not Bushwhack, but this damage number might not be the case. This might be when you're level 60, and it might go up substantially when you're level 100. But that's kind of how I see a lot of these, so we'll go through these. With Firefly, you have 3 fire explosions dealing damage. Again, just okay. Focus Fire channels a ray of fire damage over time, and this will be very good, most likely for sorcerers. It will probably allow them to drop the Firebolt enchantment that is pretty much a staple of almost every single build to get all those benefits. This might be a way you're able to do that instead. It should be a way you're able to do that instead. So this one should be quite good for sorcerers. For other builds, I'm not really sure how much that'll come into play. Gyrate, your character like spins on its legs, it says right here. If we go to Gyrate, yes, rolls its legs around quickly, dealing damage to all surrounding enemies. So a little bit of AoE, like Rob describes as a whirlwind AoE, and that's the one you actually see right here. This again could be very good for leveling in early game, but I don't see this being super strong later in the game. Impale is the dagger attack to enemies in front of the Senechal, dealing damage. Again, we don't know exactly how much damage this will be. Could, again, probably something I see more for leveling. And then, where are we here? So Lightning Bolt launches a bolt of lightning at the target, dealing damage. Arcs to other targets, dealing a portion of the original damage. So it's basically chain lightning. Probably, again, I could see this being used on sorcerers, or maybe like a druid or something in combination with other lightning based skills is where I'd probably see that one. Protect is essential. It creates a barrier for a portion of their max life. Could be pretty good. It obviously depends on that barrier amount, but could be good defensively. Reconstruct, they reconstruct a beam, healing the player for a portion of their max life over time. So if I'm understanding this correctly, and I don't think Rob had a picture of this one, he did not. No. If I'm understanding this correctly, you will probably have to kind of station yourself in this beam that is shooting out. So it's not like it's just going to heal you if you're just kind of next to it. You're kind of going to probably have to be pretty stationary or jump in and out of it. But depending on how much it heals you, could also as well be pretty good defensively. Slash, pummel enemies in front of the construct, dealing damage. See, there's a lot like this. You have the slash, the impale, the gyrate, the bushwhack. These all seem very similar, and I just, unless they scale to do a ton of damage, I don't really see how good they're gonna be like later on in the game. Once you, again, these are probably great for leveling. These will probably just help you clear out mobs, gain XP, etc. But I don't see how these are gonna be very useful later in the game. These ones that are kind of just straight ahead physical damage. The ones that are more intriguing are really the ones that are doing different kinds of elemental damage and things like that. Next, we have the Tempest, electrically charge an enemy, causing it to deal damage to themselves and additional enemies each second. Over time, as the enemy is killed, the Tempest spreads to another enemy, gaining additional time and bonus damage. These bonuses are also applied if Tempest is reapplied onto the same enemy. This one I can see being very good. So this one, you're basically just, depending how fast you use it, but you're basically just spreading around damage, and you might be able to find a way to keep this constantly going and have these enemies constantly damning themselves. And we'll see with some of the other tuning stone abilities, so your support abilities down here, that I think this one might be one of the top tier ones. So final one, Flash of Adrenaline. Administer a quick flash of adrenaline to player, granting bonus damage for duration. I could see this being good, especially later on if a lot of these kind of fizzle out, like the slash and the gyrate and whatnot. This one could be pretty good. So it really comes down to some of these elemental ones, like the lightning bolt, like the focus fire. I'm not sure if I actually mentioned auto defense, but this they actually showed off in the video, and it's quite cool. You create like a little barrier around you, projectiles explode into it. Right here, the screenshot that he got, so it's a rank 4 out of 10, and it says it shoots up to 18 enemy projectiles and lasts 5 seconds with a 25-second cooldown. So while this looks very good, it doesn't work against bosses or players if you're playing PvP. And then, so it looks like the limit goes up. So I'm not sure if this is going to change each time. If this time goes up and the limit, I could see this one being pretty good as well too. But the way the screenshot is, I'm a little skeptical. Seems like as you do harder content, this thing just might get melted in, 3 seconds, and then you got another 22 seconds before you put it up again. Doesn't work against bosses, but who knows? I can see this one being okay. So that is all of them. So kind of how Rob has it set up here. I guess he has a Tempest. Yeah, he does have the Tempest OP. That's kind of what I was thinking as well. This one could be very good. This is probably the most intriguing one out of them all. As far as the other ones, like I said, this Focus Fire, this Lightning Bolt, we actually do have a screenshot of Focus Fire right here. Onto 2 targets, dealing, so this is a 10 out of 10. It's pretty good fire damage. I wonder how this could work, again, maybe in conjunction, not just for sorcerers, but in conjunction with the ring X-Falls. Maybe if you get procs on that, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work, but that's something I'll keep my eye on as well. So like I said, I'm kind of, unless these do a ton of damage or there's something else to them, I don't really see how after early game, like things like Bushwhack, Gyrate, Impale, Slash, like I've been saying, are going to be very good. Firefly is a little bit interesting because it does do some elemental damage, but I'm probably weaker on that than some of the other ones. I think Lightning Bolt could be okay for certain builds. Like I said, Tempest is the most intriguing. Auto Defense, depending on how it scales, could be quite good for going through dungeons and stuff like that. And again, these two really depend on the amount of barrier and the amount of healing, and for this one, how big that ray is that it's shooting out, so how much you're able to actually get out of the healing. And then Flash of Adrenaline could also be good, depending on the damage bonus. So now, this is where I think things get more interesting, honestly, is with the tuning stone abilities. So, The way I could also see maybe something like Gyrate being used too, it could be good for applying some of these tuning stone abilities. So let's go back to the Blizzard post, and then we'll come back over here, and he's got, I believe, 6 pictures of some of the support gems, and then he's got some thoughts of them as well, but I'll give my thoughts first here. Okay, so we have our tuning stone abilities, and again, you get to apply 3 of these to each of your 2 governing stones. So we have volume of support. The supported skills effect size is increased. So something like that whirlwind one, he would probably do a whirlwind in a bigger area, or the maybe the healing one, the beam's bigger, something like that. Again, we don't know exactly how these work. Supported skill, next one is swift support. Supported skill gains an attack speed bonus. So something like this on like Tempest, I could see, is what I'm kind of interested in. If it's attacking faster and it's constantly making this enemy damage itself and it's spreading to other enemies, I could see that being quite good. Breaking support, damage from the supported skill instantly destroys enemy barrier effects. In addition, there's a chance to make enemies vulnerable for 2 seconds. I don't think the barrier is that important. If there is reasons you want vulnerability, this could be useful in that case. Tactical support decreases the cooldown of the supported skill. So something like this for like something like auto defense or something that has a higher cooldown, again, could be very good. I could see that being very used. Efficiency support, when the supporting skill deals damage, you gain critical strike chance on the same target's hit. This is good for certain abilities where you need to crit. So this one I could definitely see being used in a bunch of different builds. Devastation support. Supported skill gains a critical strike damage bonus. Unless there's massive changes to crit on the horizon, I don't see this one being overly useful. Safeguard support, when you use the supported skill, when you use the supported skill, grants damage reduction to you. This sounds great. This might be kind of a staple that everyone has on, just on one of their things, just for more DR is good. Frigid support, portion of the supported skill's damage dealt is applied as cold damage over time and applies chill. So this is where we start to get interesting. So different things with chill, for example, like a rogue with frigid finesse, even though that's been nerfed. Different chill abilities, sorcerer, things like that. This could be quite useful, and these all kind of sound good on like things like Gyrate and all these other ones, but I'm not sure. I guess it probably depends on the cooldown, and we don't know why you would want to use that over something like Tempest and just slap that on Tempest, but we'll have to see. I'm assuming the trade-off is going to be the cooldown, so if you really want to apply that chill as much as possible, then you might go for a bushwhack or whatever it might be. So we have frigid support, then we have the burning support as well. This is kind of the same idea. Again, the crit doesn't matter that much to me, but same idea. Basically, I'm thinking with sorcerer, with dropping the fire enchantment, so multiple ways to do that. Electrocution support is the same thing, but lightning damage has a chance to stun. Again, this is good for thinking things like, again, sorcerer seems very good for. A lot of these do seem good for sorcerers because they work in conjunction with all their different elemental damages, and especially with the Taurash's ring, the one where the more different types of damage you apply, you get the huge 15% damage bonus per. This could be very good. Bleeding support, this would probably work best with barbs. I was also thinking potentially the stun with barbs too, because they do have some things that synchronize off stun, but bleeding support probably going to work best with barbs. You can do more damage to bleeding enemies. You can do you can get damage reduction for bleeding enemies, things like that. That could be really good on barbs. Poison support. So this one actually not only has so it applies poison damage over time, but the poison also has a chance each second to spread all poison damage to an additional enemy. This is one I am very interested in because the way it's written here, and does Rob, I don't think he had a picture of this one. Yes, I just wanted to make sure. But the way this is written, I'm specifically, well, one, I'm thinking again, Taurash's. Two, what I'm really thinking is rogue builds, poison rogue builds, which have been great, twisting blades, or, you know, some of the rapid fire, penetrating shot type builds. If you can spread a ton of poison and then have a chance to spread that if it's all the poison damage, not just from the specific ability from your Senechal, but if it's all the poison that you've already applied, this could be really good as well too, especially with something that attacks fast. Maybe again, that was a little too harsh. Maybe I'm thinking on gyrate. The more and more I think about some of these abilities, we'll have to see. Something like that where you can just spread it around as much as possible could be really good. Dust support. So this is the shadow damage one, and this was one you were not able to get previously with Talrash's. So you were capped at you could get 4 out of the 5, so you had 60. This could be a way to get that max Talrash's, which is a huge damage bonus. So that one's interesting. Then it's also probably going to be very good on necromancers, and you have a chance for their attacks to be interrupted, so defensive, but something like Infinimus as well looks tailor-made for. So all these type of different elemental damages and supports, I think, are going to be very good, and I think they're going to open up a lot of possibilities. I'm pretty happy with those. Duration supported skills have the duration increased. Again, you're probably looking at something like the auto defense or something like that. With this one, you have fortify support. So this is going to be you gain when you hit an enemy with the supported skill, you gain fortify. Skills with slower attack speeds or skills with cooldowns will increase the amount of fortify granted. So that's pretty interesting. So you're not really being penalized for using a slower one with this, and it could be a way for classes or builds, I should say, not really classes so much. They don't have as many ways to get bonuses off it, but builds that have a tougher time keeping their fortify up for different druid, barb, and necro builds. This could be good for them. And then moving down here, we have resource support. Player gains an amount of primary resource when the supporting skill first deals damage. So the way I'm kind of thinking of this one is a little bit like Tybalt's Will with the resource gain. So if you have something that you can kind of constantly spam, because it's only when it first does damage, but if you can constantly get out there, constantly keep your fury up, I could see this being really good for things like Druid or something like that, like a pulverized Druid that has some resource generating problems. This could be a way to keep that up with us losing Metamorphosis and that ability to constantly become unstoppable with Tybalt's Will. Initiative support. The supported skill will cause a Seneschal to teleport to the target. If out of range, can only occur once every so often seconds. This one's a little bit interesting. It's going to depend on what you want to use here. So something like Bushwhack or something, if they're out of range. I'm not really sure what the range of these are going to be, so we'll have to see on that. Could potentially be used on something. Doesn't seem like the best one. So arching support, the supported skill can hit additional enemies. So something like the Tempest or the Chain Lightning one, you could hit even more enemies. Or the Fire, you could hit even more enemies. Or the Firefly, again, I could see that one being used on various ones as well. Most of these do seem like they could be used. Again, we'll have to see how it actually looks in practice. So these next two here, or specifically these next one, but they're kind of these projectile ones. So the way they showed it, it doesn't look like you have any real control besides actually using the ability on the Senechal itself. So it doesn't look like you can tell it which enemy to attack. It doesn't look like you can tell it exactly where to move or anything like that. So these next ones, so if they're just missing a ton with the projectiles, this multi-shot could be quite good. I'm sorry, not the multi-shot. Where's the one? I thought there was one that causes it to automatically hit the target. But launching additional projectile is good, especially I'm thinking like Tempest and stuff like that. And the Pierce, I don't really think you would use this over the multi-shot, but it depends. It could be good. Gripping support, damage and effects done by the supporting skill to distant enemies pulls them towards the central construct, can only occur once every so often per enemy. This reminds me of the Druid power from Season 1 that I can't remember, and they brought it back as a ring. But this could be good for something like a Shred Druid or something where you really want to group up enemies together, even like a Hoda or something like that. This could be quite good. Registered damage support. Any damage caused from the supported skill is registered. The registered damage explodes at effectiveness when the target dies as fire damage. So this is the one a lot of people are talking about because it sounds a lot like the Barber Heart. That was shadow damage. This is fire, but it sounds like the same idea. You're basically going to hit an enemy. Let's say it's with that, even with that like Tempest one, it's just building up all this damage over time and then eventually just explode onto all the enemies nearby. I could see this being extremely OP, and I think a lot of people have already compared it to the Barber. Seeking support. This is the one I was looking for up there. The supported projectile will auto-seek enemies for a limited duration. So this one's kind of interesting because if your thing's missing all the time, that kind of stinks. So the fact that this is in here is a little bit strange. Maybe I'm missing something. But this seems a little bit strange if your little buddy here is just shooting and missing constantly. And then we have slowing support. Damage from the supported skill slows enemy movement speed for a limited duration. The closer the enemy is to the central construct, the greater the slow amount. Enemies may be slowed up to a maximum amount. So this is good for certain builds with either crowd control, or I know there's some druid legendaries and things that specifically have to deal with slow. So that could be quite good, and it could be a way that you can crowd control enemies when you don't have a lot of crowd control in your build. Then we have mockery support. This one reminds me, so it's damage done by the supporting skill taunts enemies hit for a limited duration of time. They can only occur once every so often. Does not work on bosses. This reminds me exactly of the trickery ability from season 1 that was on Rogue, and they brought it back with the ring, where you basically, that was when you used like a trap skill, you deployed a decoy and it would taunt the enemies towards it. It was actually quite good for higher tier content, so depending on exactly how this works, it could be good again, but we'll have to see. Probably one of the weaker ones I'm thinking, but that little trickery thing, we didn't have nearly as many options, but it was actually quite useful. If you place like a poison trap down and you're playing like Twisting Blades Rogue and you kind of ran away and you kind of let them all go towards that and you hit them all in the back and you kind of destroyed them, it was pretty good actually. So then there's two basically, and what they came out with was in different articles, and again that's in Rob's video, the article, I believe it's PC Gamer. But there's two basically uber tuning stones. Neither of these are governing stones. They're both tuning stones. So they actually release what the Evernight one is, and is essentially a Shaco 2.0. So he had a picture somewhere. Right here, Evernight. So the supported skill grants you +4 to all skills when used for 2 seconds. So seems absolutely nuts. It's probably going to be one of the most sought after ones. Again, it being one of the Uber ones, we'll see how realistic it is to actually get, but this one seems absolutely nuts. And then we have the other one here, which is Genesis. We don't know what this is yet. I hope it's something cool. I hope it's not like something that's so much kind of just stat sticky, basically like the +4 to all skills. I hope it's like some cool effect or something that you can maybe even make some cool, unique builds around. That would be nice, but we really have no idea what this one is yet. I'm interested to see if they'll take another uber unique. I could see them maybe doing the, you can actually see right here, I don't think this actually matters, but I was thinking the Spear of Lycander, I believe it's called, the one that gives you a random shrine effect, potentially, with this. Could be kind of cool. I don't know. But going to kind of some of the pictures that Rob has here, and then, so we have the dust support. This is the shadow one. So this is 50% of supported skills damage applied to shadow damage is a rank 2. And you can see there's rare, there's regular, and there's legendary, and then there's unique. And they describe these more like uber uniques. If they're like regular uniques, they're probably not going to be too tough to get. But it seems like they're going to be more like uber unique ones. Anyway, so dust support, so these are all going to be rare. And I don't think they said, if I'm not mistaken, how many rare, regular, legendary things you can have on at once. I'm not sure if there'll be a limit on that. I kind of hope not, but we'll see. So 50%, and I'm assuming this is probably going to be the same for all the dot ones. I'm trying to bring this up. So it's probably going to be 50% of the support skills damage is applied as whatever damage it might be. and that's over 5 seconds. Again, this is rank 2. This will probably go up, and this will probably go up. So for Shadow, it has a chance to interrupt their attack. For the other ones, it was the spreading, it was extra bleeding damage when they're moving, chance to stun, crit damage versus burning, and the chill. So that will probably go up. And then next we have the resource support here. So the number here is very low. I'm interested to see though how this goes up as your character progresses. Then we have the potency support. So it increases the effectiveness of the supported skills by 20%, which is a 10 out of 10, but that's a pretty big jump. Sorry if it got a little choppy there. I had to splice it, but we were on the gripping support here. So this is the one that pulled them in. So this is every 10 seconds, and this is a 10 out of 10. We'll see how good that is. It seems pretty good to me, and you can actually see at the bottom here, it tells you which governing stones it's equipped to. We have the duration support. So the supported duration skills have their durations increased by 4.4 seconds, and that's a 10 out of 10. So that's quite a bit. For some of these, I could see that being pretty useful. And then we have the piercing support, and this will pierce up to 11 enemies. So now that I think about it, actually, the piercing support paired with the seeking, if it'll actually let them pierce 11 enemies, that could be good. But besides that, I don't see that being great. So these are all the ones he had pictures of. Yes, that's it. So he's got a couple things down here for Hoda Bar, but yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts. I think I really went through everything, and I hope you got something out of it. Again, we'll have to actually see these in practice, and the days leading up to Season 3, we'll get some more info. So we'll be able to see maybe more of these, exactly how much they'll do, exactly how they'll scale, because it says as your character gets more powerful, so will these. So I think even with this 10 out of 10 rank, I think this might go up, or the damage or the resource right here might go up, because, I mean, this is egregiously low if this is what it's going to give you, quite frankly. I know that's only 4 out of 10, but if it's only going up 1, you're looking at 14 at level 10. So, yeah, I'm excited to see, and excited to see how these play together. I'll probably theory craft some things on what builds I want to play at the beginning of the season. For me, this poison support looks really good, honestly. Poison support paired with like this barber one, and then X-Fouls could be absolutely nutty. So we'll have to see, but I'm probably going to theory craft some things. I really think I want to play a penetrating shot rapid fire rogue build, but we'll have to see as we get more information and we see kind of the patch notes and where the class balance sits. Anyway, that's going to be the video. It was pretty long, but that was I want to give a pretty in-depth breakdown in how I see things working together, and which runes or stones I think could be good and which could be used in tandem on different classes. I hope you guys enjoyed. It's been The Butcher, and I will see you again leading up to Season 3 and then full force once Season 3 hits. Appreciate all of you. Thanks.